This week is all about fitness. How long would an amateur footballer last in a Prem game?
Yeah, there was a player who would have a cigarette before the game, at half time and after.
Ken, why don't you train at Premier League intensity?
They'll actually have someone on the side of the training pitch these days with an iPad, which will have a live feed of every person's name and all of the different metrics.
I play up front for City for a season. How many goals would I score?
How are you going to score? How?
That's rude for one.
I need to get you involved in Palace's training session.
You're going to look like a mug when they sign me on a 2-year contract.
All these amateur players, right? You cannot score 6 goals for Man City.
Yes, people, welcome back to Ball Talk. I'm your host, Noah, and as always, I'm here with footballers Lewis and Ken. This is one of our insight episodes where we find out everything about the footballing world from these two ballers right here. Last couple of weeks, we've covered managers and agents. This week is all about fitness. But before we start, our favourite section of any pod, look at some comments.
I do like this.
There's been some good comments. We've had some views recently. First one we got on the Ballon d'Or.
Yeah.
We need a review as to why Vinny didn't win it. Was my clear winner. Ballon d'Or should be based on best player, not trophies. Why have I picked that one out? This one is my mate who knows nothing about football, and I guarantee you has never watched Vinny play football.
If it's based on best player, Vinny should not be winning it, man.
Exactly. I wanted to shout out on it. Yeah. Cry more. Arsenal tears taste so good.
That's about us talking about the refs and we ref differently.
Bro, why are you tasting our tears?
Such a weird
That's
comment.
weird, isn't it? Someone check on him, call the police. This one is at Lewis Bryon. 0 ball knowledge.
Who was that? You,
Ken.
What was that for?
That was the Ballon d'Or chat, though.
Yes.
Can
it
I
was
do
indeed.
that?
Did you not see it?
I don't know.
You've seen it now.
I've seen it now. Yeah. Wow.
I've got. I think you might need a name change. I think he's saying we don't
Talk about
know
football.
anything about football yet. We've got Rodri. Man, these blonde little girls in football.
Just
Blonde
Don't
little
even know.
girls.
Yeah. Assume it's not about you.
as us do, obviously.
Yeah, clearly we are adult men. So you've got that
Blonde
one
little
wrong.
girls, wow.
We got a comment here on our matching t-shirts that we accidentally wore. That was not planned.
Yeah.
Nice tops, lads. And that was Ken.
Yeah. Thank you, Ken.
You're welcome, lads.
Our top commenter.
Ken's getting some shouts here. And the last one. This is probably the most true one, right? No one's taking the mick here.
Yeah.
On my football video, actually, someone said generational talent.
Just for everyone, he commented that. Okay, on his own football
Did you
video.
actually?
Yep.
No, so it was you.
But it's true. Generational
Yeah,
talent.
it is true. Yeah.
Lads, fitness.
Yeah.
How much of an impact does it actually have on the modern game?
Obviously, I mean, it obviously has a massive impact. I feel like if you're in today's game, if you're not fit, if you can't get about the pitch, you've pretty much got no hope, regardless of how good you are on the ball. There's probably a couple players that can get away with it, like people like Busquets, Pirlo, but even them, you'd be surprised how fit they actually are, how much they get about the pitch. So, yeah, it is essential, isn't it?
Yeah, your fitness is your ceiling, really. You're as good as you are fit. Like, if whatever you want to do on the pitch is capped by how fit you are, because sometimes
100%.
you maybe want to make this run or like you want to ask for the ball here, but if you're struggling, you're not going to do it. But if you're, as fit as physically possible, then you can do whatever you want on the pitch. So it's huge.
Yeah, think about it, right? If you're like completely fresh, the first thing you do of a training session, you make a 10-yard pass. It's easy.
Yeah.
Let's say you're doing that after 90 minutes, or you've got like no energy left in the tank.
Yeah.
And you do it, then you make a 10-yard pass. You've got a lot higher chance of messing it up.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if you don't feel like that during the games because you're so fit, you're going to play better.
Yeah.
Do you think it's more of an impact than us amateurs think? Because like we see Caicedo like sidestepping just to follow the shape of play, and
Yeah.
we're like, well, I could do that.
I'll tell you a thing that looks really easy on the pitch, like for a centre mid position, Declan Rice, Caicedo, where you're like a couple yards, accelerate to press the ball, it gets played across, a couple yards to accelerate, press the ball. The little like 5-yard doggies, you do 3 or 4 of them, you're literally blowing. I don't care how fit you are. You're blowing, mate. And it looks like you're not doing much because you're not running quick.
Yeah.
It's only a couple little changes of directions, but yeah, you take it for granted massively.
Yeah, and we usually comment on people's fitness as football fans and amateurs when we're sat there eating a pizza and a pint, don't we? So
Yeah,
we're probably wrong. It's changed a lot, hasn't it? Back in the day, we're talking cigarettes and Stellas at half time, keepers not needing to be fit at all. What has changed?
Yeah, it's funny you say that actually, because when I was last played at Palace, there was a player who would have a cigarette before the game at half time and after.
No way.
Who was like, I think he's retired now, yeah, but he played in the Prem for Palace for years.
How?
Won't be named. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, so you'd be surprised. It's a lot less like there's no Stellas or anything like that. Yeah. But if someone smoked for 20 years, they're probably not going to give it up when the game's changed.
That is true.
Yeah, but sorry, what was the question?
It is what's changed from back in the day.
I think the technology and the machines these days is the main thing.
Okay.
Like everything's, there's so much more tech involved, even in training. Like you have obviously the GPS vests that you run, you wear when you go out to train. Mm-hmm. They can track how far you run, of course, your high intensity runs, your sprint distance, your acceleration, deceleration. Mm. So they can basically, there's no hiding place. You can see if someone's working hard and if someone's not.
That's interesting.
And they'll actually have someone on the side of the training pitch these days with an iPad, which will have a live feed of every person's name and all of the different metrics that they're covering.
No way.
So you can literally see second by second who's working hard, who's not.
So would you get picked out then and be like, you've ran half of what everyone else has ran this?
What they use it for is like if it's after a game and they know they don't want me to do a certain amount of sprints because it will increase the likelihood of injury. Then once they see I've done that, they'll just start to pull me out.
Wow.
Or vice
but if
versa.
I've done half of what you've done,
if you come on as a sub in that game,
yeah,
you need to up your sprint distance. Maybe after the training session, you'll do some sprints after.
Wow.
So it's a good thing to have, isn't it?
Yeah, that's brutal. If it's changed so much, fitness.
Yeah.
Let's take Everton, right? Everton players today, would they be a lot fitter than Everton players 24 years ago?
Yeah, no doubt.
Really?
No doubt. Yeah, it's just direction the game's gone in. Like, it's just with everything, it's just progressed. Like, obviously, we've spoken about tactics before. That's progressed. Fitness has progressed. It's like, if you want to make your team as good as possible, make them as tactically sound as possible, make them as fit as possible, make them as good as football as possible. So it's just been a natural progression. And like, obviously, because the clubs take care of literally all the details in terms of their sprint distances in training, what they're eating and stuff, the players have just progressively got more and more fit. And it's not going to go back. It's such an important part that, yeah, it's only heading in one direction. But yeah, the difference will be huge.
Big.
And it's clear to see on the pitch, like if you watch a game 20 years ago to now, it's night and day.
Yeah.
But not only that, you look at a player 25 years ago and like let's say without don't want to get too sus here, but without a top on, like you look at them 20 years ago to now, it's going to be you'll clearly see a change. Less body fat, probably more lean muscle. So yeah, it's clear to see, isn't it?
And I guess it comes down to, you've both said it, but not having to actually think about anything yourself. Like if I had a masseuse, a physio, a strength conditioning coach, a personal trainer, a chef, I would be very fit.
Yeah.
A lot fitter than I am now. And back in the day, they wouldn't have had every single one of them like analysts and things, would they?
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. They've still got to do the work themselves.
Of course.
Like you're still got the gym session will be put on for you and told what to do, but you've still got to do the reps and the sets. But it's a lot easier than someone who's got to sort of think about their fitness while doing a job or something like that.
Yeah.
Or someone who's like in the National League that doesn't have as much facilities or staff to cater to them. How
much of a week in training is fitness?
During the season, not much really. Like earlier in the week, your sessions will be more intense.
Yeah.
Like you might do full size 11v11 games or like a longer session. But it's not really fitness focused because there's so many games, and like obviously ideally you had a good preseason where you got yourself up to speed, and then now there's nothing you can do that replaces the games really. If you're playing weekly, you'll be getting your you'll be getting your conditioning from that. If you're not, then obviously after games you'll be doing things like extra runs
after the games
to top up. Jesus. Yeah, that's pretty standard like at every level. Like if you haven't played, you've got to do a bit of running.
No?
It's obviously dead because you've not only just not played, now you've got to stay out, everyone else is getting changed, eating whatever, and you're running. It's nasty, but you need it because otherwise...
I think it's like a lot to justify the day off on the Sunday as well, I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because you can't... like they want to give everyone the day off really after if the team's off. So all the players would likely to be off. So to justify that, they have to do a bit of work on the Saturday. But like you said, you're doing it sometimes 2 hours after you've actually started the warm up. So you're a bit stiff, and it's like coming on as a sub. You're very tired quickly.
But there must be different. Say like if your team's just lost and the change room is bad, you must be like, oh, thank God I get to go run outside. If you've won, however, and it's jumping, you're like, I wish I was in there.
To be fair, you're right. Like after a loss, if I've ever been sub after a loss, you're usually like, let's just get the runs done now. Like rather than go in, the gaffer's going to be screaming and shouting there. You're like, there's no point going in now. Let's just do our runs. And then by the time he's done, we'll be done as well. If you've won, obviously, the change room's a good place to be, but not for the subs because you're not really there. Or even if you're there for a couple of minutes, you've got to go out and run after. So, and
it could be mixed emotions, whether if you've not played and they've won, it's like, fuck's sake.
Yeah, depending on why you've not played and stuff as well. So.
Have you ever... this is more to you, Lewis, because Ken might not be able to say. Have you ever, after they're like, right, you're a sub, you got to go and run. Have you ever been like, oh, my hamstring feels a little bit tight?
Nah, you literally can't do that because then everyone will just look at you differently. I think you just got to suck it up and keep the thoughts in your head.
Just do it.
Yeah. I mean, there's always that period where it's like the game's ended and you just look to it'll be the S&C guy, really, the warm-up guy, and you just look to him and like, is he going to say anything? Are we?
Oh, could you maybe get away?
Sometimes they don't. Sometimes it can chop and change for some reasons. Like to me, it seems, can they be asked to tell you? Like sometimes it's very, it just changes all the time. So you do wait and see if they're actually going to tell you to do it or not.
It must be a nervous wait. I imagine your fitness coaches, your S&C guys, to be like PE teachers. Like it's winter. Massive coat, they've got hat on, they've got trousers on, they're like, you run around the pitch, I'm good here, I've got my training done. Are they eggs? Are they idiots?
They're actually the polar opposite.
Are they?
The ones I've seen, like all the ones at Palace have been sort of very young, very bright, well-educated, straight out of uni, really.
No way.
So they've got a lot of qualifications that they've spent long time studying, and they're probably early 20s, and they're a few of them, and they're basically running what will be a first team's sort of fitness schedule of pre-seasons and stuff.
I was thinking old boys in a big coat and a whistle.
No. It'll be a young fit lad, a few of them, or girl, and
really,
they'll be telling you what to do basically.
Is that the same with you, Ken?
Usually, yeah.
Usually,
it's like because the game's evolved, they probably want people that have studied S&C recently, so it's probably pretty.
It's all fresh out of uni.
Yeah, they're kind of up to speed. Like
maybe not too fresh out.
No,
there'll be some experience.
Experience at clubs, but like youngish, probably similar age to the players a lot of the time. Not really like coaches that are usually always older. Sometimes you get them, but sometimes you don't. But they're not. They usually you get on with them. Like they're cool people.
The best banter in the training ground is always in the physio room because it's the people who are more your age.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I thought you'd hate them because they're the ones that make you do fitness.
Yeah, they have to.
You know that they don't.
They do it.
It's not personal. Yeah. Like, it's their job, and we know we need to do it as well. That's the other thing. Like,
and like you said, it's not old school these days where the fitness is running around a 10k run.
Yeah. Okay.
Like, it's not. So it's not like I've got to do this really long run or a bleep test. It's not that anymore. It's very short, sharp, especially during the season. You don't really feel like you're doing runs or fitness. You just feel
you're just playing like games.
You're playing really intense football.
Yeah.
Pre-season can sometimes be slightly different. But I mean, during the week, what you just asked Ken previously, during the week, what it's always been with me, let's say it's Saturday to Saturday game, on a Tuesday would be sort of your bigger distances, so that you might do the exact same session, but it'll be on bigger pitches everywhere, so you cover more.
Okay.
And then on the Thursday, it could be the same session, but smaller distances, smaller time, but more intense.
Right.
So they try and switch it up like that. I think.
Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't know that. Yeah. I think that's perfect for the next point. What's the worst fitness drill?
Oh,
you mentioned bleep test. You mentioned long.
It's got to be an old school pre-season one, which as you get to the first team, you don't really do anymore.
Right.
Again, it's more like very held back and tailored. So you do the smallest amount for the maximum amount of gain is what a pre-season is these days.
That's
but
cool.
The worst for me was probably like we used to do like a 1,500 metre run for pre-season, but it'd be in 30 metre doggies basically. So 30 metres, 30 metres, 30, and you just keep going back and forth.
Oh.
So it's 1,500 metres as quick as you can, racing against the whole team, but it's got turning every 30 metres, so it's quite tough.
That is rank.
Yeah.
Ken?
For me, it'd be bleep test was up there.
Yeah.
one of the worst drills I did was back when I was at Colchester. We had like these hills not far from us.
Oh no.
And we did it in
They've got old
pre-season.
school.
Yeah, no, we went really old school. We did it in pre-season, and
No
we also
grass on
did
them.
it. Yeah, we also did it like as a punishment a couple of times during the season.
Oh, they're the worst.
Those are
Punishment
worse.
ones are
Yeah,
the worst.
yeah. Because the
That's the
pre-season,
I've had a
Really?
nutcase manager as well, and he was like that.
pre-season
Really?
at least it's like it's pre-season firstly, and it's kind of structured. It wasn't just like go and run forever. Whereas the punishment ones was like, all right, we're punishing you, so we just go up the hills. There's like it's basically a circuit, but like takes 5 minutes to run round, and obviously you go all the way up and all the way down, and you just gotta keep going.
And they don't tell you a time or like it's just
It's just counting. I think it was like you've got to do X amount of laps in 10 minutes or something.
Wow.
And then pause and then repeat that. So that was probably the worst drill I've done.
Anything old school is what I'm
it's
getting
old school.
here.
Yeah,
When I was an under 23 at Palace, an old school one we done. It was fairly old school, but you would basically all line up. You'd all line up with a ball on the end of a pitch. You'd dribble the ball. Again, it's a race. So it'd be dribble out to the 6-yard box, back, out to the edge of the box, back, halfway line back, other edge of the box, back, other 6-yard box, back, other end of the pitch, back, and then you'd have to do all them little increments all the way back again. And you're literally just doing that for time. I think you just got to do it for like however many you can get in. But it's a race. It's with a football. That's tough.
That is rank because you get to the end
Yeah.
and you're like, oh sweet, nah.
Then you've got to do
again.
the other 6-yard
other way back.
Yeah,
Right,
so
I've done that.
When you do these, are you trying to be first, or are you a bit like, let me just get it done?
well, you do these in pre-season, and it's always super competitive. Anyone I've ever
Pre-season, is it?
Pre-season ones are
Literally-
competitive.
been
Really?
so competitive.
The punishment ones from my bits weren't because everyone's
yeah.
head's just gone.
Obviously off.
And there's nothing to win. There's like it's dead. But the pre-season ones are tough because the standards are everyone's
you're
competitive.
you're trying to impress for the season as well. Like the team's not been picked. You're trying to impress the manager who will. This will be put on by the sports science coach, but you have a little look over and the manager's standing on the side.
Yeah,
sort
they're
of
watching.
giving his,
That's horrid.
so you get them little nerves. It's like, right, I've got to perform here.
That's why I said
running
bleep
race.
test as well because
Yeah.
for me it was the competitive side. The bleep test's not the hardest thing to do, but it's like
If you're the first to drop out of that,
You know it's going to get tough at the end.
yes, it's going to
Yeah.
get
You're the
tough at
first.
the end, and it's like I don't want to be the first, but I don't want to be the third last to drop out.
Yeah,
either.
yeah.
I've got to be right at the end.
You got to be
Like,
top five.
Yeah,
every time,
exactly.
It's a
don't you?
race at the end of the day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's probably why anything competitive
Yeah.
is probably one of the worst ones.
And people want to show how, like, come back from the off season and show how
been
much they've
working,
done in the
yeah.
off season. And it's
bit of
like,
show
right,
off.
I'm going to show how much I've done and
Teacher's pet.
show how fit I am.
Yeah.
Boring.
Yeah.
Is there really been anything that you not necessarily haven't been able to finish, or during it you're like, I'm done here?
I tell you what, actually, I didn't finish it because I'll explain, right? So the pitches were snowed under, right?
Oh wow, okay.
And we had to do stuff inside then, so it was all fitness based. So we had 3 stations and we were in teams. It was the rower, bike, and treadmill.
Horrid.
And we were doing, I don't know, I felt like I was on there for the whole day. But when it got to the treadmill, I'd done like a stupid amount of time on the rower and the bike. So I started running on the treadmill. And to beat the other team, you know how much, because you can judge the speed, you know how fast you've got to go. So I was putting it up to the speed of what I needed to do to catch up to the other team. And it was obviously too quick. So I basically just fell over.
No way.
So then they just called it a day there, yeah.
That's gonna be more embarrassing.
I know, yeah,
You can't
fell
do
over.
it. Just stop it.
But it was a ridiculous speed. My team had obviously let me down.
Yeah.
I had to try to claw it back.
You were trying to be the hero and it did not work.
It fell over, yes.
Yeah.
I think I was smacked side and I was bleeding, so
Jesus.
it was easy. It was an easy excuse to stop.
There is a point where you can go too far.
Yeah.
Competitive.
Well, they pulled me out. I didn't know, like they just said like, oh, stop, it's not worth it. It's
Yeah.
literally just doing fitness. Don't want to get you injured.
Yeah. I remember when I did when I was a personal trainer, I did personal training course, and we were testing and finding out about VO2 maxes. So we had to get on a rower 90 seconds as hard as you can.
Oh, hate
so
the rower.
obviously everyone is standing around. So I'm like, I'm gonna go really aggressive here. I'd go downstairs after 5 minutes. I was dizzy. I couldn't see. I thought I was going to be sick. Came back up like, my bank just called me really weirdly. I was absolutely finished. But
Needed the breather.
competitiveness gets you there,
Yeah,
doesn't it?
yeah, mate. I mean, footballers are super competitive, so you have to be to make it. So.
In your own team, you're like that.
You have to be.
You
Yeah,
have to
you
be.
have to
You
be.
have to.
Because you are.
You'll
I
get
know
left
you're a
behind
team, but you
otherwise.
are competing against someone for your position, aren't you?
Absolutely.
That's
it's like F1 when you compete against a driver. You're both on the same team, but he's really your main competition.
Yeah, that
absolutely
makes a lot of sense. What's the fittest position? I reckon you might have differing views on this, and I've got my view as an amateur, but I'm interested to see what is actually right.
I mean, there's two to spring to mind. I've thought about this before. I might have been asked this before, but I think modern day fullbacks got to be in with a shout. In terms of they're up and down, they're high energy, they're both ends of the pitch, and it's pretty constant. But I also think a certain centre mid type of role could be the fittest. If I think of like the fittest players, automatically it comes to like Odegaard comes to mind.
Yeah,
people like Kovacic, Declan Rice, even just because it's probably box to box.
Yeah,
it's covering the left back sometimes. It's pressing the centre half. It's covering the right back sometimes. It's sitting in front of the striker in the centre halves. I think you've just got to be everywhere. Although you're not getting the sprint distance, you're not really getting to your top speed. It's a lot of 4 metre accelerations, 4 metre decelerations. So I think that's tough.
Right, so we're going centre mid and fullback.
I'd probably top centre mids, but it's not all centre mids, if that makes sense.
Yeah, of course. Ken?
I think the different positions require different type of fitness. Like centre midfielders have to have good continuous engines, because you don't really stop. You've got to be moving pretty much all game. You don't necessarily get up to high speeds or high intensities, but you're always moving. And like you said, it's a type of centre mid, like your Kantes, your Rices, your Odegaard, for example.
Your distance cover.
Those people, you can see they cover distance, so they'll be up there. And then I'd say probably wide players. And when I say wide players, fullbacks and wingers, depending on the team.
Nah, wingers ain't in it, man.
Depends on the team. If you look at the Arsenal team, they're dogs. Like do you not see?
Yeah, but they get rest.
No, they don't. When does Martinelli get rest?
No, he does.
When does he get rest?
I see Saka get
Saka a little bit more, because he's kind of turned into our luxury player. Not Martinelli.
If Martinelli's over on the left, he's obviously playing left wing. If it's over at the right, their left wing has it, and it's in our right back position. He's obviously jogging and covering in a little, but you do get a little ounce of rest. The centre mid's not getting rest. The centre mid's over there pressing him.
No, but there's the right centre mid's over there pressing him. The left centre mid's inside tucked in. So it's the same thing. Like when the ball's on the other side of the pitch, no one's on the right and on the left at the same time.
Talk about Thomas Partey. He won't be.
No, but it depends.
If you've got two people covering,
But you say Thomas Partey's covering the most? Not covering.
I think you'd be surprised how fit he.
No, but again, I said midfielders as well. But I think you're underestimating wingers, because you don't see
overestimating.
I think there's times when Martinelli attacks, for example, ball do his run and lose the ball. He can't. He's got to sprint all the way back. They're countering, and their fullback's on the go, and he's got to get back. And then when we break, he can't just jog forward again. He's got a break of it's.
I get it. It's very industrious.
And I think it's very similar to the fullbacks, because at the end of the day, you're tracking your opposite fullback. So your opposite fullback has a high demand, because when they're going forward, he's got to overlap and do that. The winger who's matched up against him can't rest while that fullback's overlapping. So they're kind of mirroring each other, I think.
I think it comes down to, do you favour someone who's sprint, and 10-second rest, or someone who's sort of acceleration, jog, but doesn't stop?
Well, that's the thing about fitness. There's different types of fitness, right? Surely, and I'm saying this because I was centre mid, they are the fittest because they do everything.
I'd go, if I had to pick one, I'd go centre mids, but it might be biased because I play centre mid. I wouldn't mind a fullback shout. That's my opinion.
Because they're doing everything. A centre mid has to be a defender, attacker, a winger, or a fullback.
I mean, Ken, you agreed with fullbacks, didn't you? And some centre mids, but you just chuck winning. You just put.
I put no. I didn't say striker.
You're not putting yourself up there.
Strikers and centre backs.
Strikers is harder than people realise, but it's not on the level of wide players. Obviously, I play out wide every now and then as well, so I know that playing out wide is tougher than playing up front in terms of fitness.
Interesting.
They run the least amount, centre backs and strikers, because they pretty much near enough mirror each other.
Yeah.
I know from when I played centre half, you'd get how far you've run after the games, and you get everyone's distances. And centre halves and strikers are always pretty much the least, but strikers probably have the most, and the fullbacks most sprint distance.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's different levels of it, isn't there?
Yeah, of course.
And different people find different things hard as well. That's the thing.
Very true.
If I do one sprint, I'm
Some
out
people
for the
are
day.
built for.
Is that just because you're unfit though?
And I'm well slow. So I'm a centre mid, just box the box, just jog.
Little plodder.
Exactly. What sport has the fittest athletes? Football, cricket, rugby?
Yeah. I think cricket is... It can't be cricket. They're not in there.
Can't be, can it?
I mean,
they have lunch.
They literally probably cover this less distance over a 10-hour period.
Than the goalkeeper.
Yeah, and the only people you could probably say have to be half fit are the regular bowlers.
Sprint.
And because it's a sprint.
Yeah.
But even then, like, come on, you
Bro,
have
they have lunch.
fair rest after.
The rest is
they're
huge.
not.
Yeah, no, they're not in it.
If you have lunch in a sport, you're not the fittest athlete.
Football and rugby, there's a conversation to be had.
Let's have it.
I still think football all day, just because, I mean, front row at rugby, you're basically just a big lump in you that has got a bit of an engine on him.
Yeah.
Whereas football is, I look at football and think finely tuned athlete. Again, maybe I'm just being football biased. Less strength, probably more speed overall. I know the wingers at rugby.
Yeah.
And it's got to be, it's just higher tempo, isn't it?
Having said that, getting lumped must take a lot.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
though,
You're a
isn't
bit
it?
tougher.
Yeah.
You're tougher,
You're
obviously.
definitely,
And
No,
tougher,
I'd
more
say-
You
explosive.
got football,
but-
Ken?
I'd say football. You
Yeah.
could say perhaps it's a bias, but I don't think like
Certain
football's up
positions.
there in terms of sports, in terms of like physical demand. It's high, and people don't realize it. Like,
I feel like there's more technique to maintain as well in football.
yeah,
So
that is a big thing. Like, not saying this is all rugby is, but let's say you've got a ball in your hand and you want to run 100 meters as far as you can, as fast as you can, in the 90th minute or 80th minute of rugby. That's obviously tough. But try doing that with a football that
Dribbling,
you've got to keep hold of, and your legs are going, and but you still got to keep control of the ball. It's not in your hand.
Yeah.
Where you can
Yeah.
just like, you've got to be fit and you've got to still keep your technical levels high.
Yeah.
That's tough.
Yeah, I agree.
We usually get zero ball knowledge shouts. We're going to get zero rugby knowledge shouts, aren't we?
Yeah, which could
It's
be
probably up
true.
for debate.
yeah,
It's
which
probably up
could
for
betray
debate.
us,
I
that's
can't
fine.
pretend
Yeah.
I know rugby the way I know football.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. But it seems that way.
I mean, rugby, I'm pretty sure, I don't know what rugby it is, but they can't play more often than like one game in 5 or 6 days in it.
Really?
Whereas football, you obviously can.
Yeah.
So
But then I'd
Yeah,
say
that's true.
they take some mad knocks.
yeah, it's
So
like
that's
that might be like head trauma stuff.
Yeah, I think it's
Even though
probably
it's
to do with
illegal,
that. Yeah.
Another conversation.
Yeah.
Right. We talked about fitness gaps.
Yeah.
We've got National League here. We've got Prem here. What is the gap in fitness from National League to Prem? Discuss.
I mean, for me, the main thing would be just the intensity of it, the speed of it, the speed of play, the speed of your thought. That's probably what I think the main difference is. I remember when Palace first bought Eze off QPR, and he first couple of weeks of training, they had to pull him out certain sessions because at QPR he was really used to a 2-hour long session, which is only one league below, by the way, a 2-hour long session, which was a lot longer than Palace's session, but it was a lot less intense.
Okay, yeah,
Palace
yeah.
was an hour and 15 after the warm up, and it's really short, sharp,
Aggressive.
but high intensity, like it's max. And he struggled to cope with it the first few weeks, so it takes a lot of adapting period, I think, to the intensity.
Yeah, the Prem's mad. Like, well, I think most people would agree physically it's the number one in the world, not just here. So they're absolute machines in that league.
So you're saying you couldn't jump into a Prem game and be fine fitness-wise?
I think that would be the biggest part I'd like.
Really?
The fitness. And again, obviously, they're accustomed to that. So they've been training at a certain intensity for years, most of them, but at least a few months now, if this is your first season in the Prem. Playing at that games, it's something you can build. Obviously, if you're put in that environment, like your technique's not going to change.
Most people
overnight.
can build.
Most people can kind of adapt to that. Like an Eze will, by now he'll be fine.
Of course, he's flying. Yeah,
exactly. Whereas obviously at the start, but that is probably the biggest just gap. Like the National League's intense, but you can't compare. With
How
the
long
Premier
would you
League.
last in a Prem game? At your
Just
current
fitness.
level, yeah, fitness.
I think 20 minutes. I'd be
Shut
saying,
up.
I'd be saying, get me.
Mate, I don't think you realise. I don't think you realise. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's mad. Like especially the people that have been in Premier League clubs, they've sort of built their way up really slowly, trained in a tense environment as an academy player, which will be more intense than the other academies, right?
Yeah.
Up until just before they get into the first team. I remember when I had my first training session from the 21s, went over to the first team, and trained with them. I remember it was Jason Punchin after the training ground said to me, "Listen, I can see you've got it on the ball, but you've got to do the work off the ball." And I'm thinking, fucking trying.
Did he say that?
Yeah.
No way.
No, but he said like you've got to
learn.
He basically said you got to learn the intensity because I just couldn't keep up with the intensity.
Really?
And I was probably the fittest in the team as an under 21.
Yeah.
So the jump even from there, I've been built up since I was 8 to play in that environment, and I still couldn't cope.
So
The first session, obviously, other 2-3 weeks you get there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's mad. Like 20 minutes that doesn't surprise me.
And you back that. This is no disrespect to your National League players.
No,
by the way.
it's not.
That
It's
is-
just-
that
No, that's
shocks
just
me.
the environment he's trained in all the time. It's not saying in 3 weeks he couldn't.
Exactly.
Yeah,
That's
of course.
Exactly,
Yeah.
Exactly. Like.
So let me ask you a weird question.
Yeah.
I don't really know how to word it without sounding out of order. Why don't you train at Premier League intensity? Why does League One not train at Championship intensity? Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to sound like a knob.
Yeah, it's just so many reasons. Like, at the end of the day, everyone's training at their 100%, whether you're in, step 5 of non-league or in the Premier League or League 2. Everyone's training at their, as far as their body can take them, because they want to impress and get in their teams. The difference is, the higher you go, people are just better at football. So the game gets, like, the Prem has better athletes in terms of faster, stronger players naturally, because that is an advantage if you're a player. The Prem has faster thinkers on the ball. All of these things just mean that the intensity that they can play football at is better. So it's not to do with them trying hard. It's just the game is quicker. The game it flows better.
You're only as fit as your speed of thought and your speed you can play football at, really.
Is that a big part of it?
Yeah, like your speed of, if you can't think quickly and make decisions quickly, the right decisions at a high level, when everyone else is doing that around you, you're not going to be able to run or do the things as hot to a level above that, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like you said, a League One player is not coming out the training session thinking, right, I only tried 80% today because I'm League One, and Champ don't think I'm doing 90%. They've all come out thinking I've give 100%. And that's their max due to their football ability.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
And it's like, it's not necessarily an individual, but like the team's level.
Sorry,
Some individuals will be good enough to
course,
up and stuff,
but
like they can't drive a whole 22-man training sessions standards like on their own.
For example, like let's say, for example, if you're like, let's say you have the ability to play in the Premier League,
right?
But the rest of your team don't in National League. Yeah, you're not then going to be able to just drive that pace to my abilities, which is higher than everyone.
Wow.
Your own intent, like you might shine in training, you might be the star man, but you're not going to be like taking the whole session's intensity to the Prem's intensity.
Yeah, really easy way to think of it. If we were to play with a bunch of 7-year-olds, they're not all of a sudden going to start sprinting about like we can.
That is very true. I just didn't know how much that mental came into it.
Yeah, so much.
How quick
speed of
because like let's say you go down, say step 5.
Yeah,
a lot of them might not be able to play like one touch or like see pictures before the ball gets to them and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, let's say you need 3 touches to get the ball under control before you can play.
Yeah.
You've slowed the game down, isn't it? And if that's everyone,
and taking more energy out,
and that happens every training session every week,
then that game becomes just a lot slower. Whereas in the Prem, you can't afford to not know what you're going to do with the ball before the ball comes to you, and it's just all so fast that so now their bodies are sort of have to match up to the speed at which they can think.
And if we take it for granted, and all fans do, I think, if you watch Premier League and pretty much only Prem week in, week out, because you think that's just normal. Yeah. Watch Premier League, right, and then watch an under-18s match. Watch Premier League, watch a women's match. Yeah. You have them side by side. It is crazy the difference. When I hear people say in the pub, I could get involved in a Prem game, score 8 goals or something like that. No, you couldn't.
Well, let me pose this then. This is a perfect segue.
8 goals is crazy.
Right.
For City, they say, don't they?
Let's go with this. Amateur footballers, me.
Yeah.
You've seen me play. Average fitness at the minute. How long would an amateur footballer last in a Prem game?
Yeah. I mean, 0.
No, come on.
You're not you'd be on the pitch. You could be on the pitch for 90 minutes, but you're just going to be like absolutely dead the whole time. Like, but I'm 1 minute.
I'm the amateur footballer here.
1 minute.
The game at the start of a match is quite like cagey. You play it around the back.
That's
you get
not
into
intense
it.
though.
No. I was watching Spurs Villa on the weekend, right? I was live, and I've been in the football environment the whole time, and I was shocked of how quick the tempo was.
That's the hardest part of the game. That's the part where you're
the first 20 is always the.
It's almost like a fight where you're like.
Mug myself off.
Everyone, both are just swinging and literally the first 5-10 minutes is like both teams are sort of testing each other out, and then you kind of have to earn the right to now play your game.
Yeah. You'd have like you'd get involved in one bit of play, and then you'd be tired, and then the plays all of a sudden change somewhere else, and you'd be catching up there. As you're catching up there, you'd be somewhere else. You'd be lost.
So you're saying 1 minute. Ken, do you back me to get longer than 1 minute?
The question's a bit like it's difficult.
I'm not
innit? Like,
saying you'll have to come off the pitch, but you just won't be able to get involved after 1 minute. I don't think,
Okay,
because you'll be too far off the pace.
I see what you mean.
Yeah, after 1 minute, if that,
Basically
you'd
saying
be
no minutes, but
like
Not
you'd,
having that though.
yeah. You,
I think then everyone would be surprised. They always overestimate what they'd be able to do.
Bro,
it's
when you
mad.
said you could last 20 minutes, that actually pissed me off because I was going to say I could last 20 minutes.
That's how you've got to see it. Like people that play football week in, week out will tell you that they'd still look at the Premier and say 20 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever. So if you don't play football or you play amateur football every now and then, like.
And people saying, oh, if I was up front for City, I could score 8 goals because they've got a decent touch and a good finish.
You wouldn't even be able, when the opposition defence steps up, you wouldn't even be able to keep up with them to stay on side.
Right,
Bro, they'd step up, you'd still be offside. They'd drop deep. You wouldn't be in the position to score the goals.
Exactly.
Answer this age-old question, right? No injuries, no penalties. I play up front for City for a season. How many goals would I score?
I mean, the average amateur striker, let's say, because
Yeah.
you'd be lucky to get 1.
Oh,
You'd be lucky to get. How are you going to score? How?
that's rude for 1. 2.
It's just.
You're going to
Phil
be.
Foden goes down the wing. I'm standing in the box. Bang.
Yeah,
you think
okay.
it's going to be standing in the box unopposed?
You've
like,
I'd get there, bro.
no,
You've
but
got
like,
2 absolute unit centre halves.
That's what I'm saying.
who are
Unit.
physically strong and quick, who can read the game well, better than anyone probably in the world.
Yeah, but guess what? I've dropped a shoulder and I've got.
Yeah, you have this exactly.
And first of all, you've got to be in the position to get there. The ball goes back and gets recycled. You're probably offside. You go outside, the ball's already there. I'm afraid to say,
Bang out of all.
all these amateur players, right? You cannot score 6 goals for Man City. I'm telling you, if you play up front, you're scoring 0. That's fact.
Comment down below how many goals you think you'd score for City.
You just wouldn't be able to keep up with the play.
Bro,
right?
I've got 5.
The only way people score
Free
is
kick.
if you're on pens.
Yeah,
Pens aren't allowed.
that's
You're
what
not
I'm
allowed.
saying.
There you go.
Exactly, yeah.
There you go. So
Because
Free kicks. Corners, I'd score a header.
free kicks.
I'll tell you what, corners is probably your best shot.
You reckon?
Yeah, I reckon. Because you've got no open play.
Why?
I've just
I
explained.
still don't
If
think
no-
unless you're an aerial threat.
Yeah, but some non-league
what I'm
players
saying.
are.
Guess
Yeah.
what? I am. Right.
You got. But when the ball's moving and it's the speed of play, you got 0, bro.
De Bruyne's done the whole job, and then I'm just there. De Bruyne square it,
So
I
you
tap
know-
it in.
let me-
But this is the thing. They think the striker just ended up there.
ready to tap it. Even this, right?
I'm violating you.
If De Bruyne, you see them passes,
That's what I'm saying.
De Bruyne whips it and you're like, he's put it on a plate for him. Once he's played that pass, there's still a 3-4 yard dash to get there, really, or
To
the
meet the
timing
ball,
of
yeah.
movement to get there and be in between these 2 centre halves. You've still got to be quick to make it look like it's on a plate for you,
Right. So
and not knackered before that point as well.
Yeah.
amateur footballers are getting 0 for Man City for a season.
Might do
No
one.
penalties,
Might do
no
one.
penalties, and no penalties. You might get 1 from a set piece,
Okay, Ken.
I agree. Like,
none from open play.
I'm just trying to think how goals are scored and like, unless a defender just done something and like gave you an open goal,
Yeah.
like, like most goals, people underestimate like what is required to do to
You're
score.
not
them.
scoring the goals that people who ask that question think, where like you're going to get on the end of a De Bruyne cross.
You're not.
In my head, I still am.
Because how are
Yeah.
you getting across? Like, how are you going to get across the Gabriel?
I'm going to try and.
score?
I need to get you involved in I need to get you involved in Palace's training session
Yeah, done.
because
That's on, the issue is that's on me. I can't do this anymore.
You'd be
Well, you can do that.
You'd be so shocked, right? And then even Palace's training session. I remember some of the coaches from there went over to Arsenal, and they were shocked of how the difference was from Palace's first team to Arsenal's first team.
Yeah.
You're going to look like a mug when they sign me on a 2-year contract.
Bro, they're going to have the 999 on speed dial because you're going to be in the hospital needing gas and air.
Okay, right.
Nah, the session would be mad though. Like, I reckon
That would be good content. That would be good content.
hamstring
By
would
the
explode
end of the
instantly.
passing drill, you'd be done.
No,
Little
bro,
Rondo, you
he's,
think
not
a
he's not making passes.
Do you know- yeah.
First of all, bantered off in the 2-touch as you're walking out.
Incorrect, great 2-touch. Me.
Boxes, you'd probably be knackered from
What's
there.
that?
You'd be in the box.
What's that? There you go. And then the warm up. You've not even done. I reckon you're knackered after the warm up.
Yeah.
Yeah, what if I...
Warm-up would be-
All right.
Which you should be a bit
They allow
tired
me
after.
to skip the warm-up and I get straight into the rondos and stuff.
Yeah. No. Well, if you're
Guess what?
first
I've
of all,
won.
you're forever in the box.
You ain't coming out.
Yeah. Meg's left, right, and centre.
No.
You don't come out, and if you come out, you go straight back in.
Yeah.
It feels like a personal attack, and I actually be upset.
We have to dig you out here.
Yeah,
but
no.
It winds you up when people say they can do a bit in the Prem when they've never played a game in non-league.
Yeah.
What is the position that they would be most likely to do a bit?
Oh my god, that's a good question.
Like
The position probably
modern day
bench
goalkeeper.
it'd be goalkeeper, then probably just like a standoff side striker and wait till it comes up the box.
Though, bro.
What if you played as a
Just
striker
a position.
amateur?
Yeah, probably.
That's the only.
You wouldn't score.
You
but-
wouldn't. Yeah, you'd.
I mean, it's a void question.
You'd have to play up front, but like completely not do what modern day strikers do.
Yeah.
You have to just like literally what you said,
Try and
goal
get
hand
lucky,
basically.
yeah.
Anywhere else where you couldn't play midfield because you couldn't keep up. You couldn't be a fullback because you get rinsed.
No, that question's done, man.
Okay, let me switch it. You've seen me play, Ken.
Yeah, I have.
You don't have to insult me in front of everyone. How many goals would I score National League striker?
More than the Prem, but.
Yeah, but would it be? Like, would it be?
I don't
would I
watch
score?
National League really, so.
Because you say more than Prem, like obviously.
It'd be more than a Prem, but I don't know how much more though. Like it would be in the same category of. I don't like.
I think it could vary the level of amateur player. Like I've never seen you in.
Yeah,
a game.
Yeah, are you asking you specifically?
Me.
Playing centre mid.
Yes.
Playing centre mid, none.
Oh.
Like it could be. You
No,
might get the
not
odd
from
worldie
centre
that
mid.
Might be.
If you now played up front where you was closer to the goal,
Yeah.
you might get like 2 headers in the
Done.
season.
But it depends what team
I'll
you're
take
playing
that.
for as
As
well,
well,
like because
yeah.
you could just be with a team that's not like in the Prem. Every team gets chances, but
Yeah,
you might play.
Yeah,
it-
you
your
can play.
National League,
There's a lot of teams
some
that you
teams
wouldn't
just
get
don't get
anything.
any chances.
Yeah.
Wow, that was enlightening. I'm gonna go and cry now. I've got one more question. Right.
Yeah.
We've just spoken that my fitness would not be up to the level.
Yeah.
If you could suggest one exercise to amateurs to improve their fitness,
Amateur footballers.
amateur footballers,
Yeah.
what would it be?
To improve their fitness, it would be play football matches.
Really?
Absolutely.
That's the best way you can get fit. I mean,
So like me smashing out a 5K every day,
no.
obviously it would help, but
I mean, I've been injured a lot.
yeah.
And I would do fitness in the afternoon, like really tough, like 45 minutes to an hour fitness circuits or fitness sessions. And I do that every day. And then when I get back onto the pitch just to do a bit of running, I am blowing. Like I'm literally just doing straight line running.
It's
I'm blowing.
weird that, isn't it? By the
Like,
way?
and I'm thinking, what have I just done all that fitness for?
Yeah.
Like it's just I'm going to be blowing regardless. So I'm doing this straight line running. I'm blowing. I'm getting fit at that now. I'm thinking that's fine. Then they get you doing a bit of ball work. I'm blowing.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, what's the point? From the ball work, you then go into training, and training you're blowing, and then it's just like every single step from training. Then that's the biggest step from training to a match, because you could train every day of the week for 2 hours. As soon as you go in the match, the first 5 minutes you're going to feel unfit.
Is that the way this like term match fit?
There's nothing that can come close.
Really?
I feel like it's the same as sparring with boxing and then getting in there and punching someone who wants to fight you.
That's very interesting. We
Yeah.
spoke about this when we spoke about subs, didn't we? Like you'll come on up against a defender who's been on for 70 minutes and you're like, why am I more tired than him?
Yeah,
It's weird, isn't
it's a
it?
similar thing,
It's a similar, yeah.
but yeah, it's got to be. There's nothing like.
No, you
being
can't
match fit.
replicate match fitness. You can do like I've done pre-seasons where I've done the craziest runs all pre-season,
And you feel fit, then
and
you?
you are like, I mean, you are fit.
Yeah, of course.
But like you feel like cool. First match comes, I should be good here because I've actually done running. It doesn't improve. Like, it doesn't change anything.
It's like you've done nothing. Honestly, it's like you've done zero running.
Yeah, because you're like, I can't
Fucking
physically
mad.
feel worse than I currently do. I'm 10 minutes into this game. It couldn't be worse than it does. If I'd done nothing, I'd still feel exactly how I do now.
Yeah.
That's how
crazy.
you feel.
So what you're saying is don't do any pre-season
I've just killed myself in all the off season, right, to get fit. I've done all these pre-season runs, and I get in this first pre-season match, and I feel fucked.
Yeah.
What is the point of what I've just done? Obviously, there's a point, yeah, but you're gonna feel fucked regardless.
Yeah, that's what it is.
And that's what I feel
obviously,
like after
you
injuries
probably
as well.
are a bit better, but like you're gonna feel fucked regardless.
And then
you need to play games if you
A
want.
couple matches in, then you get
stuck,
there.
yeah.
To sum up this podcast, you're fucked.
Yeah, you're fucked.
Unless you play matches.
Yeah, just
you're
play
done.
matches as much as you can.
Yeah.
Job done. Well, that was fitness. Wasn't very fun for me, but everyone else had a laugh. Next week, grab your boys or grab your girls because we are doing team bonding. Thank you very much. See you then.